StraighTAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is all politicians are liars. Yes, they are all liars. And I've touched on this subject extensively when I did my series on what is wrong with Western society and the United States government, and on my episodes where I've talked about politics more specifically. But if you are not familiar with those, let me see if I even titled it that. Well, I told you why I failed in politics back in episode 1667. And when I talked about politics, I've talked about it from a lot of different angles, but I haven't talked about it in such a specific way as what I'm going to explain here today, which is why I'm doing it. But I've also explained to you why Western society is collapsing in episodes number 3262 in a 4-part series that was just a week or so ago. So you probably have that fresh on your mind if you heard it. Today I'm going to go deeper into something that I somewhat alluded to in that series but didn't go deep into, and that's what I'm going to do here. So today I'm going to tell you why all United States politicians, by design, I'm not saying this is their personal nature, everybody who's a politician, maybe I had some politicians listen to this, I'm not saying it's your personal nature to be a liar. What I'm going to explain here today is that the design of the American political system forces people who are in politics to be liars. You don't have a choice but to lie when you work in politics the way that it is currently constructed and the way it currently works in the United States of America. That's what I'm going to explain. That by design, you must be a liar, and what that means for you, citizens, and what you need to do about it. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is all politicians are liars. Number one, to be successful in politics in the United States of America, you have no choice but to lie. I've touched on this before, but let me give you the specific detail of how this is true. See, sometimes when I'm doing my live streams, I'm talking about current events and social issues, someone will comment with a compliment and they say, Dre, you should be in politics. We need somebody who's honest and objective and logical to be in politics. And I appreciate the compliment, but there are several reasons why I would not get into politics. Amongst them is that, number one, I'm not built for the public sector. Public sector means you are beholden to the people, and the people are ostensibly your boss. The problem with being beholden to the people is that you can never please all the people all the time. Which means there will always be somebody who is mad at you regardless of what you do, even if you feel like you did, quote unquote, the right thing. Interesting thing that when you join the public sector, no matter what you do, is not the right thing for everybody. It's the right thing for some people and it's the wrong thing for others. And again, who would sign up for a job where no matter what you do, somebody's going to be pissed off? Not me. So that's one reason why I would not work in the public sector. Another reason is that when you work in the public sector, you have people above you, you got people below you. You are stepping into a highly bureaucratic environment. And even though I know how to navigate bureaucratic environments, I would prefer not to have to navigate bureaucratic environments. So I would not step into one voluntarily. Yeah. Another thing is, I don't like having bosses and supervisors. I don't want anyone who has seniority or authority over me to where they can essentially tell me what to do. I just do not operate well when someone even tries to tell me what to do, let alone they had the authority to tell me what to do. Another is that going into politics would be a pay cut on my income level, and there is no unlimited income potential to being a politician. Now, there's a joke you can insert there somewhere, but I won't give it to you. I would not want to be in politics because when you're an entrepreneur, you have unlimited income potential, and as a politician, you do not. And I don't want a ceiling on my earnings, at least from the way that I do business now. But superseding all of those reasons, superseding everything that I just told you, actually, there's a couple more reasons before I even get to the big reason. Another one is, if I'm going to be a successful politician, I would have to win some elections. It means I got to run some campaigns, which means I got to go around shaking people's hands and smiling, shaking the hands of people who I don't want to shake their hands. I got to smile on the face of people who I don't even like. And I had to pretend to be on the same page of people who I'm not on the same page with, because they have the money that would fund my campaign, and I need that money so I can win my campaign, because without that money, I'm not going to win. Therefore, once those people give me the money, knowing the 3 laws of economics, law number 3 is a trade-off and opportunity cost. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Someone gives you money, they want something in exchange, whether they say it to you or not. They want something in exchange for that money. Now I got to come up with whatever it is that they want, which means I may have to compromise on my values or my ethics in order to appease this person who is funding my political career if I want to stay in politics. And I don't want to be in that position where someone can call me and basically tell me what to do because they've given me a check. I don't want to be in that situation. So that's another reason why I wouldn't want to be in politics. And I would be competing against people who are willing to do all of these things. And they want to do all these things their entire lives. They actually like doing these things. If I got in politics, even if I was to overcome everything that I just told you, and I got in politics, I would hate having to do all of the things that I just told you. But there are politicians who love doing all these things. And one of the reasons that they love doing all these things is they have no other professional level skills with which they can contribute to society. So they don't have a choice but to love it because they ain't got no other option. I got other options. So why the hell would I do politics? Which is why it is a thankful task that Donald Trump got involved in politics, because he really did not need to. Somebody should ask him about that. Why he's already been asked many times. I'm sure he'll write a book after his last term is over about more about why he decided to do so. Because again, coming from the entrepreneurial world, why the hell would you get involved in politics? Donald Trump has got some things in his head that I ain't got in mine for me to want to do that. But superseding everything I just told you, the main reason I would not want to get in politics is because you have to lie damn near every day to be successful. You have to lie. It's not you choose to lie. You have to lie. Again, to be successful. Now, I could run a campaign right now and run for, who knows, some city council in Miami. Maybe I could win on a local level. But if I'm going to get into bigger politics where money gets involved and other people are funded, then I would have to start lying. If I could run for a small office and win, being honest. A small office, maybe a council seat, or I don't even know what they're called, like the smallest thing I could run for, I could probably run and probably win, just being honest and not spending any money. Not even putting any of my own money into it, just running and just talking to people and shaking hands. I could probably win. But as soon as I get to the level where money's involved, I got to start lying. And I don't want to do that because my opponent's going to be lying. And to beat them, I'm going to have to lie too. You got to. You can't do it. When they go low, you go lower. That's the way that it works. And on this show, although I am offering you an opinion, many times I try to make sure that I'm telling you every side of a situation. Even if I personally land on one side of it, I still try to make as best I can the argument for the other side, even if I don't agree with it. The problem with politics in America is that if you want to win votes and win favor, you cannot talk about the other side of any position on which you stand strongly. You can't talk about it in an objective way. You can't do that. You're not going to win. Because you would not get enough money from your donors if one of your donors really, really does not like one side of any conflict that's happening, and you try to speak objectively about that conflict. That donor is not going to want to give you money because they may be emotionally engaged in really hating that side that you just spoke objectively about on the 6 o'clock news, and they don't like the fact that you did that. They may pull their funding. Now, how are you going to win your election? Well, the answer is you won't. See, this is the issue. That's the issue. If I was to talk objectively about a side that my constituents, my most fervent supporters, really don't like hearing me talk about objectively, they may decide they're not going to come vote for me at the next election. Now I can't win because my most fervent voters won't come vote because they don't like the fact that I was neutral on a subject that they want me to be hateful, or they want me to be really enthusiastic. You see, this is the issue. And if that's how I really feel, now I gotta pretend to feel something that I don't actually feel in order to win votes and curry favor and keep getting my donations. See, this is how it becomes a lifelong acting job. I don't want to do that. I don't want a lifelong acting job. I want to be able to keep it real and do my business that way. Now, I don't mind acting for a little while, for a short period of time, but I can't do it all day, every day. I don't want to do that. Again, politicians, this is what they do. This is their full-time job. In the United States of America, this is their full-time job, lying. And they lie when you're putting on a front and pretending to like something that you don't like, or pretending to dislike something that you don't really dislike. You're lying. You're lying by omission because you know what you're doing. Now, if you don't know what you're talking about, then you're just misleading people. But if you know that you're doing it, you're lying. There's a truth and there's a lie. And that's it. It is a binary. So every politician who is successful in America, i.e. people who win elections, they must be a liar by definition, the way that I just explained to you, because you don't have a choice in America because your opponent is going to do everything that you won't do. Everything that you feel you are above ethically and morally doing, they will do it and they'll beat you. And there goes your career before it even started. Politics is designed to reward the liars and penalize the people who tell the truth. The reason I couldn't get in politics is not because I don't know how to articulate my point or argue my case. The problem is whoever I'll be running against, all they had to do is get strongly sensational on one side or the other of a conversation in which I am objective and neutral. And all they're going to do is just hammer me on the fact that I'm not as strong on that point as they are. And they'll pick the point that is most likely to sway the vote. And boom, they got me beat. Nothing I can do about it except start telling lies just like they are. So there are no successful politicians who tell the truth. Can you name one? Name a successful politician who tells the truth. Successful meaning they win elections, plural. Name one. You can't name one. Because none of them, you can't do it in the United States of America. The system is not set up for you to tell the truth. So it's not that they are all, as people, liars. They are, by being a successful politician, they're liars. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is all politicians are liars. Number 2, the game of many politicians, particularly on the political left, from what I've seen, is, again, they don't control this domain, as many on the right are guilty of it as well, is to tell the masses of people that all of their problems are because of some bad guy / boogeyman who is causing everything and needs to be stopped. This is the main game of many left-leaning politicians in the United States of America as of today's recording. That they tell the people, the voters, the reason for your problems, the reason you can't pay rent, the reason child care is too high, the reason the price of eggs keeps going up, the reason you think you might lose your Social Security is not because of anything that you did, voter. It's because of this boogeyman, this bad guy who we need to go against. And if all of you come vote for me, we together will take down the bad guy and we'll solve all your problems. That is the frame, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, that is the frame of the political left these days. That's been their frame for about 25 years. I'm going to solve all your problems by stopping the bad guys from taking everything that's supposed to be yours, taking it away from you. This is a bullshit frame, but it works. Understand that people are much more emotional than they are logical. This is a general rule. So if you can speak to people's emotions, you don't have to make logical sense. So again, I see this much more on the political left than I see it on the political right. But people on the political right use this frame as well. They just don't use it as often, nor are they as convincing when they do it. They're not as persuasive. People on the left are very persuasive with this, and they are very good at pointing out very convenient straw men to use it against. For example, Donald Trump was publicly noted for being a billionaire before he got involved in politics. So as long as he's involved, someone on the political left can say, well, Donald Trump's a billionaire. He probably has a bunch of friends who are billionaires. That is a reasonable assumption. And he's only going to do things to help himself and his friends who are also billionaires. And it sounds logical. It sounds logically to make sense. The problem I have with it is if a billionaire wanted to help out a bunch of billionaires, why would he go through the government to do it? It's much easier to do it without the red tape of the government, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I understand how the government could, offer some things that you can't get if you're not in the government. But again, if a billionaire wants to help out another billionaire, they ain't got to get in the government to do it. All right, Jeff Bezos does not need to get in the government if he wants to help out Bill Gates, if he wants to. He doesn't need the government to do that. So many politicians have played this game. And again, the left tends to use this often, especially these days, because Donald Trump can't deny being a billionaire. Actually, I think he probably likes being a billionaire, and he has some billionaire friends. Yes, he does. One of them, Mr. Elon Musk. Are they actually friends? I don't know, but they're working together right now, at least the last that I checked. And Elon Musk is a billionaire himself. And is he getting in the government to help himself? Well, at least the political left will tell you that he is. I don't think he is, but the political left believe that he is. Again, the political left's argument is that the bad guys who have all the money, they're the ones who are causing your problems, Democratic voters. So if y'all just come vote for us at the next election, we're going to solve all the problems by getting rid of the bad guys. This sounds great, but it's a fairy tale. So what we're going to do is we got to stop that person. We got to stop the rich person who's a bad guy, whoever they are. We got to stop them, or we got to tax them more. How long, some of you who are older than me, how long has the political left been telling all of us that they're going to solve all the problems by putting more taxes on rich people? How long have they been doing that? It has to predate my knowledge. It has to predate my recollection. My recollection goes back to about the early 1990s. But any of you who's older than me, I'm pretty sure it goes back farther than that. They've been telling y'all this shit forever, and they've never done it. And the reason they don't do it is because every time they try it, it fails. It backfires. You can't tax rich people more and have them just sit there and allow you to do it. See, the reason people get to the position of having a lot of influence is that they don't sit around and allow things to happen to them. That's the issue with taxing the rich, is that if you increase the taxes on the rich will position themselves to where you cannot tax them. And therefore you get nothing. That's the reason why the government never does it, but they keep posing as if that's what they're going to do, as if that's going to solve the problems of the people who are not rich. It's not going to solve your problems, and it's a bullshit concept. So any of you who didn't know, now you know. So these other boogeymen who we have to stop, maybe we'll get them arrested. Maybe we'll slow them down in some way, shape, or form. This is what the political left tells the voters all the time. All you have to do, masses of people, is vote for me, and I'm going to be the problem solver, and I'm going to alleviate all of your life's problems. All you got to do is vote for me. Every politician uses that frame, by the way. Donald Trump used that frame himself. This is the frame that many politicians effectively use Again, particularly I say on the left, but this works on the right as well because they're a very popular frame. It's an extremely popular frame. And this is the reason why I couldn't be a politician, because for me to go out there and say that, I would know that I'm lying to you, and I would have to convince myself of the lie before I convince you of the lie. And I don't want to convince myself of some bullshit that I know is bullshit. I just wouldn't do it. Why would I do that? Again, now if I had no other options, then maybe I get into politics and do it. But if I have other options, why would I do that? Politicians must convince themselves before they talk to y'all. They got to convince themselves that saying something like this is the actual truth, because there has to be some conviction in their voice when they say it. If you're only playing a role, then people might be able to tell you're playing a role. The mask is going to come off. So I don't want to convince myself of a lie, because if I don't do that, I can't convince you of one. So the reason why it's popular, this whole frame of vote for me and I'm going to solve all your problems. And I'm talking about the political left and the political right now. The reason why this is a popular frame is because most human beings are allergic to anything that sounds like personal accountability, i.e. you are responsible for your own situation, solve your own fucking problems. Most people don't want to hear that. So when a politician comes along, you notice none of them ever say that. You notice that? Just in my recollection of presidents, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. There hasn't been that many people. That's a long time, but not that many people. So between all those people, not one of them has campaigned on, you are the reason for your situation. You need to stand on your own 2 feet and start fixing your problems. The government, we can do a few things. We're going to have a few things in place, but generally our job is to get the hell out the way and let you be who you want to be. And if you end up being a failure, don't blame us, blame yourself. And if you end up being successful, don't thank us, thank yourself. Now, what politician has ever said anything like that? Even though I think a lot of you listening to this agree with it, what politician has ever said anything that sounded anything like that? None of them say that. Why don't they say that? The reason they don't say that is because there's not a big enough swath of the population, the voting bloc, that would love hearing that is going to sway anyone to go vote. No one's going to go vote for you if you're telling them that all your problems are based on you and all your success is based on you. So you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and go make it happen. Well, if I believe that, then why do I need to go vote for you, Dre? What you need to vote for me for? I mean, I just told you everything that happens to you is a result of you. So voting for me is not going to do anything, right? Isn't that what I just said? This is the reason why politicians don't say it, even though it's true. Again, this is the reason why I'm not a politician. I'm killing my own career before it even happens. This is popular because most human beings are allergic to personal accountability. They're allergic to hearing that everything that is happening in their life is their responsibility, even if it's not their fault. And they don't want responsibility for circumstances of their lives. Most humans do not want responsibility. They would rather hand that responsibility off to a politician, or at least feel like they're doing so, and let the politician take ownership of your situation. And whatever happens, you can be happy for the politician or you can blame the politician. But either way, you ain't looking in the mirror. This is how most people operate. Many of you may not be able to fathom that this is true, but it is true. The problem with giving up responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, is that you must also give up power. And that makes you a powerless pawn in a bigger game being played by politicians. That's where you don't want to be, by the way. If any of you haven't read in between the lines, that's where you don't want to be. When politicians successfully sell this idea, and they sell this very successfully, they've been doing it since before I was alive, they've taken all the initiative away from you, because now you voted for your favorite candidate, they won. Now you sit around and wait for them to solve a problem that they ain't going to solve. They sold you on the idea of solving the problem, but they're not actually going to solve the problem. Again, lying. But the issue is, I'm not mad at the politician for selling this lie. I'm mad at you for buying it, because you should know better. What did I just tell you? 3 laws of economics, ladies and gentlemen. What are the first 3 laws of economics? And let me see when I put that episode out, so I know when I'm referring to you all here. That was episode number 3261. So it was like, what, 2 weeks ago? I just told you the 3 laws of economics. Law number 1 is supply and demand. Law number 2 is the law of diminishing marginal returns. And law number 3, the one I tend to reference the most, is the law of opportunity cost / trade-offs / there is no such thing as a free lunch. When a politician tells you, just vote for me, I'm going to solve all your problems, he is offering you a free lunch. All you got to do is check a box and all your problems are going to get solved. Really? Are you still watching Disney fairy tales after school? No, it doesn't happen that way, ladies and gentlemen. You have to do something to get change in your life. Voting is not doing something. It is doing something, but it's not. It's doing something, but it's not doing something. You got to actually do something for real that actually requires some investment in order for you to get what you want in life. No politician can tell you this, because if they tell you it and you believe it, then you have no reason to vote for them, because you're responsible for your situation. So what's the point of voting at all? And again, you only need one person to say that and point it out, and then they go make an ad out of it, and boom, you're beat. Your campaign is over. That's the whole point. So again, politicians go sell this to the voters, get voted for, and then the next time around, all they do is just create a new bad guy and a new boogeyman, and you get mad at that person, and then you vote for them the next election so they can beat the new boogeyman. Or we beat the last boogeyman, now we got to beat the new guy. And this is all politicians do over and over again. All right, Bernie Sanders has been in politics for 50 years. All right, all he does every time an election comes up, he just comes up with a new bad guy that the people have to beat, and Bernie's the one who's going to go kill the bad guy. All y'all got to do is vote for me so I can go fight the bad guy on your behalf down in Washington, D.C. Bullshit. And I'm not saying this is not about Bernie Sanders per se. I'm just using him as an example because I was talking about him on my live stream the other day. But he has been in politics literally for 50 years. Joe Biden, another example. Nancy Pelosi, another example. This is what these people do. They sell you on beating the bad guy. You vote for them. Then the next election, they sell you again. Oh, I got to beat the new bad guy. Oh, the bad guy came back. We got to beat him again. Vote for me again. And that's how they stay in their positions. I just wouldn't want to live this way. And those people whose names I mentioned, they're okay living this way. I'm not. That's the reason why I'm not a politician. Again, something will have to change for me to ever consider seriously getting into politics. So the cycle just continues over and over again, in case y'all didn't know. They just keep doing this until you die or until they die. And then the next wave of voters, your kids, they come in and they get fooled with the same bullshit. And then the next wave of politicians, their kids come in and they get fooled with the bullshit. So it just keeps going on and on and on. So when they say the system, this is part of it. Part of it. It's not the whole thing, but part of it. All the while that all this is happening, folks, the politicians whose names you know and the ones whose names you don't know, they keep their jobs. They keep making money based on the access that they get from being in politics, which goes well and beyond their salaries for some of them, not all of them, but some. And they make you more and more dependent on the government for your life. You don't want to be dependent on the government for shit, anything. Only thing the government's responsible for is your safety and not impinging on your freedoms and your rights, your human rights. Your rights are not granted by the government, by the way. They're granted by God. And the government's job is to protect your rights, not to give you rights. They cannot give them to you. And for the most part, they can't take them away. It's the reason why we have a Constitution. So you don't want to be dependent on the government for anything. The only thing you want to depend on the government to do is get the hell out of your way. Which is why it was crazy how eager so many people were to have the government tell everyone what to do during that scamdemic of a virus a few years ago. All we did was give more and more power to the government to tell us what to do. It's bullshit. Luckily, we had Donald Trump in, at least at the beginning, when he did not federalize a lot of the rules. Joe Biden came in and tried. He wasn't very successful at doing so, but that's crazy. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is all politicians are liars. Number 3, to be successful for a long time, working in the public sector, which is a place I don't like, you got to get really good at spin. I talked about this in the series on logical fallacies, where I talked about the redirect. Someone asks you a tough question that you don't want to answer, and you answer kind of a different question because you don't like that question. Everyone in media has to be good at this. Anyone who does any type of media, whether you're an athlete getting interviewed, whether you're an executive, whether you're a politician, if you're in media on a consistent basis, you must get good at redirecting and spin, which is basically taking a question that you don't want to answer and answering something different while making it sound like you're answering the question. To be successful, you have to get good at this. And spin is your ability to take a situation that is clearly looking one way and frame it as if it doesn't look like what our eyes just saw to us. Don't believe your lying eyes. That's what spin means. You just saw something, but don't believe what you just saw. You didn't see that. The reality of life is that everything has a trade-off and nothing is perfect. That's the reality. The problem with this reality is that if you work in the public sector and you actually told people that everything has a trade-off and nothing is perfect, okay, you can't be in the public sector for too long. You won't be there for long. You tell people the truth. Only time people start telling the truth in the public sector is when they know they're on their way out. They're about to retire, and then they start telling the truth. All right, I know I'm about to retire, so it ain't nothing you can do to me, so now I'll tell you the truth. But if you're trying to have a career in the public sector, you can't come in telling the truth. Are you crazy? Are you trying to destroy your own career? Anyone who's been in the public sector and stopped spinning the news and started telling people what was actually going on, usually that involves telling all sides of a circumstance. Even the side that may upset and discomfort people, even the side that may upset people inside of your circle. And because you upset people inside of your circle, guess what? You ain't in the circle anymore. You are a part of the circle of yourself. You're a period. You're a dot. All right, there's still a circle. You're just a dot over there by yourself. Again, only way you can keep working in the public sector is you got to appease certain people. You got to appease the people who you work for. You have to appease the people who have more power and seniority and influence in that space than you have. Because if you piss off the wrong person, your career will be done. and they will see to it that your career is done. That's the way it works. Again, it's a bureaucratic environment. We are literally talking about politics. Politics is political. And y'all understand there's a different definition of politics. There's politics, capital P, like the government and voting and elections. Then there's politics, human politics, which is things that human beings do to protect or advance their own personal interests. Politics is highly political. And one of the reasons it's highly political is because it was not designed this way, but what it has become is a full-time job. Politics was not ever supposed to be a full-time job. It's supposed to be a volunteer thing that you did on the side. If politics was actually that, most of the politicians who you know would not be politicians. You wouldn't know their names. You would not know the people who you know now for politics if politics was a volunteer position. You would not know Bernie. You would not know AOC. You would not know Nancy Pelosi. You would not know Joe Biden. You would not know Barack Obama. You would know Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was known before that. Again, all these people whose names I'm mentioning, how many of them did you know before they got into politics? Answer is fucking none of them. All right, that's the point. None of them. That's the point. They wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't a full-time job. And again, it doesn't mean it can't be good politicians, but if it wasn't a full-time job, we will have a whole different set of politicians in Washington, D.C. right now. A whole different set. Only way you can stay in the public sector is you got to be willing to do these things, which could be effectively, depending on how you look at it, selling your soul in some ways. And I don't want to sell mine. This applies to the corporate world too. It applies to government too. It applies to academia as well. All of these places are highly political. And if you piss off the wrong person with the wrong opinion or the wrong stance at the wrong time on the wrong subject, your career will be short. Any of you who works in one of these places, tell me I got this wrong. And again, highly bureaucratic and politicized environments all operate this way. That's why I do not like levels and layers of bureaucracy, and I don't like being in highly political environments because I don't want to play these games every day. I don't mind being in one for a couple of days, but I'm not planting my flag in any of these places. Because then the problem is not that I have an issue dealing with people and maneuvering amongst people. I actually enjoy maneuvering amongst people. What I don't like is having to pretend to like people who I don't like. And I don't like having anybody who has authority over me and the ability to tell me what to do. Those are two things that I'm willing to die on that hill. I'm not going to pretend to like you if I don't like you. And if I got to do that as my career, no way. And number two, I'm not having anybody who can tell me what to do. Those two things I'm planting my flag on. So if politics puts me in a position where I don't have to do those things, then tell me what position I can run for and maybe we'll talk about it. So anyone who's listening to me who's ever been in one of those places or is in one of them currently, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Academia, corporate America, government, highly bureaucratic, highly political, and you better not piss off the wrong person if you want to keep your job. I'm not built for that. I don't want to pretend. I don't like pretending to like people. And I don't like holding my tongue. Of the big 5 personality traits, I've talked about this before, is one of them is agreeableness versus disagreeableness. I talked about this in episode number 1698, why being disagreeable is the key to your success. And being disagreeable does not mean that you are negative or that you go and try to start arguments with people. That's not what it means. Being disagreeable means you're the type of person who, when you see something that you think is not right and you're in a room full of 20 people and 19 of them think things are right and you think it's not, you are willing to stand up in front of those 19 and say, no, this is wrong. And you're willing to stand on it and defend it against all 19 people clapping back at you. That's disagreeable. Some people have this trait, other people do not. Some people will see something is wrong and know that it is wrong, but not say anything. Those people are more agreeable. Agreeable people tend to be the type of people who are good at working in groups. They tend to do well in team and group environments. They tend to do very well with trying to find compromise and find acceptable middle ground when there is a conflict. Those are agreeable type of people. And there are places where agreeable people work really, really well. Disagreeable people, on the other hand, tend to do better when they are in charge or when they're working solo. They're the type of people who will challenge and question people to their faces and directly. They will challenge the status quo. They'll challenge an entire group and not have a problem with it. They tend to be the people who end up being entrepreneurs. Why? Because entrepreneurs look at the marketplace and the landscape and say, I can do this better than the way it's currently being done. That's a disagreeable frame. Just to even say that. Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to fit into this space that already exists, they say, no, I'm not going to fit in. I'm going to do something completely that's somewhat different in such a way that what I offer is better than what's currently being offered. Again, that mentality is a frame of disagreeableness. So that's what disagreeable means. It doesn't mean you're a negative person. I don't think most of you would consider me to be a negative person, but I do have I am high on the disagreeable scale when it comes to the big 5 personality traits, because I like to work independently. I like to be in charge. It is anathema to me to have a boss or a supervisor. And I don't like pretending to like people that I don't like. I just don't play those games. That's all of those are agreeable traits, and I don't have any of them. All right, that's the reason why I'm disagreeable. It's the reason why I have situated my career and my life the way that I have, and this has been highly intentional. So, again, all of you know where you land if you think about what I just said. Some of you are more on the agreeable side. Some of you are more on the disagreeable side. I would guess most of you lean a little bit more disagreeable, because if you were more agreeable, you probably couldn't listen to somebody like me on a daily basis. So anyway, politicians have to pretend to be disagreeable to opponents who they may not even dislike, and they got to pretend to be agreeable with colleagues who they don't even like. And this is the issue with being in bureaucratic environments. In a bureaucratic environment, there are coworkers who you hate, but you can't tell them that you hate them. You got to pretend like you like them, because they might have the ear of the boss, and you need the ear of the boss. And if you piss them off, they can taint your relationship with the boss, which taints your career. Maybe you don't even like your boss, but you got to pretend to like your boss so you can keep your job. Maybe you like somebody in politics. Maybe you're a Republican and you like one of the Democrats, but you can't openly admit that you like the Democrat, because according to your constituency and your friends in the Republican side, everybody's supposed to hate that person. Are you telling me that every single Democrat hates Donald Trump? I don't think so, but they got to act like they do. And see, I don't want to do that. That's lying. And when you know that you don't like a person, but you got to pretend that you don't like them, you're lying. When Donald Trump gave that speech to the joint congressional speech, or whatever they call that, and the Democrats didn't clap for or stand up for anything that he said or anything that he did, are you telling me that every single one of them who was in attendance openly disagreed with every single thing that he said? Really? Every single thing? I don't think so. See, that's lying. And that's why I don't want to play that game. That's why I don't trust any politicians, because they're all liars. And all of them are willing to sell out their integrity to keep a job. And again, if there wasn't a full-time income attached, most of those mofos, you would not know who they were, because they wouldn't be working in politics. Anyway, let's recap today's class, which is all politicians are liars. Again, I've touched on this many times. Today, I'm going on completely on the record so that no one can be unsure of where I stand. Point number one, to be successful in politics in the United States of America, you have no choice but to lie, because if you don't lie, your opponent will lie and they will beat you. Number two, the game of many politicians today, particularly on the political left, but the people on the right are guilty of this as well, is telling the people, the voters, hey, here's the problem that you have is because it is one bad thing or one bad guy. All you have to do is vote for me and I'm going to solve the problem. They never do it. They never solve the problem, but they do get the votes. And then they come back the next time around, just create a new boogeyman or a new problem. And they tell you the exact same thing. And this works over and over and over again. It's been working for 100 years in the United States government, because the reason this works is because most human beings do not want to be held accountable for anything, and they don't want personal responsibility for anything. So anyone comes along and says, I will take all the responsibility on my shoulders, just vote for me and I'll handle it. Everybody buys into it. Not everybody, but a lot of people buy into it. This is the reason why our government is what it is. It's supposed to be buying for the people. It is not by the people, because those people, I don't think most of us see them as relatable. And are they doing things for us? Not really. There's a conflict of interest, because they had to do things to save their careers. Number three, to be successful for a long time working in the public sector, you got to get really good at spin, which is basically taking a story that is looking one way and making it look another way. Even though you know you're intentionally misleading people, you got to get good at it, because if you're not willing to do this, you shouldn't have gotten in politics in the first place, because this is part of the game. All right, so in episode 1660, I believe it was 1661. Let me see. It was episode number 1661, no, 1663. Your favorite flavor of shit sandwich, one of my favorite episodes. Your favorite flavor of shit sandwich is basically telling you that anything you get into in life, there's a trade-off, and you got to decide which flavor of shit sandwich do you want to eat. All right, everybody got to eat one. All right, and there is no situation in life when you don't have to eat one, except maybe death. That's the only one possible. All of that said, folks, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to make yourself independent. You want to leverage your disagreeableness, and put it to work in your way, in your space, how you want it to go. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, get to working with me, and let's get to it. Work on your game. Dre all